Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And I did not plan on doing this video. It is just Marco here, obviously, but I felt kind of embarrassed that I mistook Steve for Clemenza. I was actually so embarrassed that what I do in order to, make these reviews is I record them on voice memo and then I upload them to a editing platform and then I put the picture and the video on. Well, actually, I deleted the audio, the original audio, because I was so embarrassed, and then I was like, oh shit, I don't want to have to redo the review because actually I still stand by everything that I said, but I luckily I was able to get the audio because I already downloaded it to the streaming platform or the editing platform, sorry. So, yeah, I felt embarrassed about that. I just wanted to assure you guys, I know that it is not Clemenza. I don't know why I thought his name was Clemenza. Another thing that I do a lot is that, and I don't know, I've always had this problem. Always. All the way back to elementary school, I had a whole parent-teacher conference where we discussed this. I was pretty bad at math. And, I would take these tests, and for all these questions, I would guess the right answer right off the bat. Because I am kind of psychic. I am a little bit psychic. And then I would second guess myself and be like, oh, well, no, maybe it's the other one. And then I would get a ton wrong. And so the teacher, she actually had to tell me, no, just, your first guess is probably right. And that's what happens with me. And so all the time during the first part of this review, when I was saying Clemenza, I was literally thinking about Steve and Derek. And I didn't want to look stupid. And somehow I ended up looking stupid for 30 plus minutes. And I also had a couple of other things I wanted to say, a couple of other, little notes that I wanted to make about the game, because I think that my review kind of gave off the impression that I didn't like the game. I really kind of liked the game. I mean, I would give it a B+. In terms of letter grades, it's just that there are a lot of problems that I have with it. I don't know. I've become kind of snobby with games. I've been having a big problem with video games because it just feels like back then, in the 2010s, there were a ton of good new video games coming out. The Ghostbusters game, Mafia, Red Dead Redemption, Dead Rising, Fallout. We were spoiled. Call of Duty, back when that was good. We were really, really spoiled. We were spoiled with a legendary assortment of games. And nowadays, nothing good comes out. I mean, as I said, the only big game coming out next year is a stupid $100 GTA game that's probably going to be a piece of overrated trash. And it's honestly, I would trade GTA 6 for 20 good games. I would trade GTA 6 for Fallout 5. I would trade GTA 6 for Mafia 5. I think that just I've been getting really frustrated with games. I think that it started when I played Resident Evil Village, because I was so excited to play that game, and I expected it to be, just pretty good at least. Like, I didn't expect it to be like a masterpiece game, but I expected it to be pretty good. And I still had fun, like, playing some of it here and there, but, like, it really, really gets me down how little good games there are nowadays. And so then I go back and I try to play these old games like Mafia 2, for instance. And I don't know, I feel frustrated. I feel like I can't find, that game that I want to play and I want to, spend all my time playing. Like, I feel like I'm trapped in GTA Online because there's not really anything good. Like, I don't know, like, I spent like 30 minutes today because I had a little break in the afternoon after lunch, and I was just literally just looking for a new game because I just do not know what to play. And it's not a problem that I've ever had before. And it's because there's not any good new games coming out. I would have been so excited to play a new Call of Duty. I remember being excited for Call of Duty, but nowadays, ugh. Like, I stay far away from that, and there's a lot of things I heard about that game, but, Mafia 2, I admit, guys, like, my review did sound like I didn't like the game, and I apologize for that because, I was having some allergy issues too, and so I was kind of dealing with that, and that does affect my reviews because I just feel like, I want to do this review, but I just don't feel well. But I actually liked Mafia 2 a lot. It's just that I did have some major issues with it. And I think as well, too, another thing is that they didn't really improve on these issues in Mafia 3. Mafia 3, I think that I kind of overrated Mafia 3. Even though I think it's underrated, I do think that Mafia 2 is better than Mafia 3. I just, yesterday, I looked at a bunch of videos about the Mafia games because I wanted to kind of, learn more about the lore and the story and the characters. And I thought that Mafia 3 looked kind of garbage. It looked kind of, dull. I did not like how it looked. I had fun with it, but, maybe it was because I was sick. I don't know. But, Mafia 2, reflecting back on it, even though it's just one day, there are some things about it that I really like. Because, there's a lot of these games like GTA, Saints Row, and there's a lot of goofiness. There's a lot of glamorizing, especially with GTA Online. You go to GTA Online, and it's like, oh, well, play the diamond heist, and, with your crew, and, do whatever you want, and, steal a bunch of shit, and kill people, and, just become a gangsta. You want to be a big gangsta, and it feels like, kind of like cringeworthy, because it doesn't feel real, it doesn't feel responsible, and it feels kind of weird. And the thing that I really liked about Mafia 2, looking back, is that it was a really dark, brooding game. The main theme of the game that they play on the main menu, is a really, really depressing song. And it's really, really good. And I think that Mafia 2 accomplished something really, really special. I still, from what I remember, I still think the first one is better, because I thought that the finale was better, and I thought that the main character was better. I did think that there were some issues in this game. Like, one of the issues that I had that I didn't talk about, which I think is kind of hilarious, is that, Tommy, the main guy from the first game, he's in witness protection, right? Well, he's in witness protection. Normally, you move a guy like that, like, away from the crime. But no, they moved Tommy to a city called Empire Bay. They literally moved Tommy to a city that is named Empire Bay. As in, like, this city is controlled by mafia empires. You got all these empires fighting each other and shit, taking over and shit, battling each other, stealing each other's shit. This is Empire Bay. And this is where you choose to move someone in witness protection. I mean, they were really... It was almost like they set him up to be killed. And to be honest, like, this is another thing that I think is bad about the game and about the Mafia series in general, is that it feels like these games are 2 steps behind all the other games. Like, it feels like with the controls and the gameplay and the graphics and everything, like, the definitive edition of Mafia 2 was really, really glitchy in a way that actually really disrupted my gameplay and did not make it fun to play at certain points. And, for instance, this is something that I didn't mention in the first part of my review. So, my favorite part of the game, as I mentioned before, is when Vito stands up against Steve and Derek. I thought that was so cool, and it was so, like, earned, and it was satisfying. The payoff of, like, you killed my dad, and, I realized that being in the Mafia is bad. I realized that, I've become a bad person, working for people like you. And, that whole battle, I thought that was the best part of the game. And to be honest, I wish that the rest of the game, like, followed that. And I wish that there was more to the game. It was very rushed. And I get really irritated when things are rushed. But when you go into the giant garage or warehouse, whatever you call it, to finally kill Steve. I think it's Steve. I don't know if it's Steve or Derek. I don't know which one's which. I'll just call him Steve. I really hope I got the right one. I'm going to look it up right now just because I don't want to get that wrong again. Mafia 2, Steve. No, I didn't. Okay, thank God I looked that up. Okay, Derek. Okay, Derek. When you go into the giant warehouse to kill Derek, I kept on getting killed over and over again. It was really annoying. I almost rage quit. I almost did. I was so annoyed because as I was playing that sequence, I had a terrible allergy headache. And then outside, this was a Sunday, and outside they decided to turn on this leaf crunching machine. And it was so annoying, the sound that made, and the sound of that mixed with, there was a fly that was flying around me, mixed with my lunch fell on the floor. mixed with the game, it might be like one of the worst gameplay experiences I've ever had. It was that bad. It was that irritating. And somehow I stuck through it and I beat the part. I beat the part on hard mode. I beat the whole game on hard mode, which that's typically what I like to do. I like the challenge, but I do also, I think it's fun to play a game on normal mode and then upgrade to hard mode, because it's like you get to play two games in a way, and you notice a lot more the second time. But anyways, a lot of people on YouTube discussed ways about how to easily kill Steve and Derek. And so I came up with a way that, to be honest, I don't know, it worked for me. So what I did is I thought about, okay, like there's two big problems with this boss fight. Number one, even though there's a lot of cover in the warehouse, Derek will throw Molotov cocktails at you over and over again. Unlimited cocktails. Number two, there's two bad guys all the way in the back, and they run up at you to try to get you. So what I thought was, okay, I got in my car and I drove into the warehouse with the car to use it as cover. To use it as like a foolproof cover. And I ran over the two guys in the back, or I got out and I used it as cover and killed both of them pretty easily. And then I waited for the other bad guys to come down from the second level, and I killed them. And then I went and I killed the other two big bad guys. But this is the funny part. So when I drove the car one time to the back of this warehouse, one of the two bad guys teleported inside of my car. And you know how the police in the game, how they get out of the car and to shoot you with the Tommy guns when like they're chasing you at like 3 out of 5 stars or whatever, or 3 stars, like 3 police stars. So this gangster, he teleported inside my car, and he was shooting me from inside of my car by leaning out the window to shoot me. And it actually worked, and he killed me, and so that was hilarious. But yeah. So what was I... So one of the things that I wanted to say was that, like, I feel like this series needs to be better in terms of the main storyline. The way that the stories connect. I feel like it's rushed. I feel like there's a lot of missing pieces, and that kind of creates a natural frustration. So another point that I'd like to make, and this is something that I wanted to mention in the first part, is that the whole point of being in the Mafia is not just about, power and status, but also about money. You're able to get lots of money in the game, but there's not really anything interesting to spend it on. The only differences you see are with the designs of personal apartments and some of the clothes that you can buy. But you could buy those clothes at any level. I think that there should have been more ways to spend your money, to live it up as a Mafia person. Even though the game is clearly anti-Mafia and clearly showing you that, this is an evil path, very, very evil, very, very terrible too. I mean, like, the thing about it is, like, you get a lot of money, but then you get killed or you get put in prison. Like, it's like, okay, like, I don't love money that much. You know, like I don't love money enough to want to, start a gang war or go on like a raid in a Chinese restaurant and shit. I don't love money enough to want to get tortured and hung on a meat hook or something and tortured to death. Like I don't like money that much. And I almost feel like the Mafia is like the seven deadly sins. Like the Mafia is greed. The Mafia is the greed sin in like persona form or human form, because everyone in the Mafia, their primary like reason for doing it is, quote unquote money. And it's like, well, why don't you just do it the normal people way? Like why don't you just do it the better way? Instead of, starting a gang war and, like doing these weird deals with the drugs, like the one that Henry planned. Henry, by the way, he has got to be like one of the biggest dumb fucks in history, because all of his plans were terrible. And I did not realize that until I watched a couple of videos yesterday and I really reflected on it. So yeah, but the point is, I think that, it is a video game. And you want to earn the money. You want to earn the money, but there's not really anything to do with it. Like there's not a lot of cool stuff that you can do. Especially as you advance throughout the rest of the game. Like you start off with nothing, and you slowly get more and more and more, and you get bigger and bigger and bigger throughout the game. Bigger in terms of bigger in the Mafia chain. You do bigger missions, you do more dangerous missions and shit. You get more power. But there's not a lot of stuff to do with the money. Like, I think that they could have added a lot of stuff with that. And I think it would have really helped, because it would have, for all of the negatives about being in the Mafia, you need to show why people would want to do that. Why people would want to do what they do in the Mafia. Why they're going on these missions. And you can't properly show that if you're not going to have like, oh, well, you want to go get a prostitute? Like in GTA, how you can get a little street hooker, and you can get a BJ, or you can get the full, whatever. But like, you have to have those types of things. You have to have those types of things so that you can really show, what would happen. Like, oh, well, You can also, too, another thing is, like, you're just given these luxury cars in the definitive edition. You're just given these luxury cars, and it's like, like, what about, like, earning those cars? Like, what about earning cool outfits and just some sort of customization to make it where you feel like you understand why, this Vito would want to be in the Mafia. Because Vito's pretty blank. He's a pretty blank character. He's a fun character. He's a really likable character, kind of. He is kind of a lazy ass, the thing with the boxes. He couldn't handle putting boxes in a truck. I still can't believe, like, he went through all that he went through, but he couldn't handle putting some boxes in a truck. So anyways, yeah, I'm just trying to look at the rest of the notes that I have. Okay, so the last note is, my ideal Mafia 5 would be Vito and Joe reuniting, like in GTA 5. So it basically, what I am pitching is like Mafia, but GTA combined. Because you look at GTA 5, that story was all about, you had these three characters. Two of them were old friends and they reunited. And then you had the new guy, Franklin. And they formed kind of like a heist trio. And, you got to play as all three of them. And you got to switch between them. And that made things really fun. It made things really exciting, cool. But one big issue with that game, because that game's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. I mean, I think it's gotten a little old, because it's like, honestly, like, I'm kind of sick of that game. I'm kind of sick of GTA, period. But a big issue with that game is that you didn't really feel the history of the characters. There was a lot of good dialogue. There was a lot of good, story dialogue, character moments. You got like one or two flashback scenes, but you didn't get a lot. You didn't get the full picture. You didn't get a full story. I think if you made a Mafia 5 like GTA 5, it would be the highest selling Mafia game in history. Because you already have this backstory with Vito and Joe. All you have to do now is build on that backstory and add in a new story of the future in the 70s, the 60s and 70s. Have the characters reunite. Have them work together to, take down whomever, wherever, whatever. You know what? Have it be where, like, they both turn against the mob together and they take the mob down. They just take the mob down. They take the entire Mafia down. Everyone would love it. You know what else you could do? You could add in flashback sequences in between Mafia 2 and 3. Because I did look up and Vito was in Mafia 3. I had no recollection of that. And then Joe was in Mafia 3 as well. He was the driver at the end. And so, but you could add flashback sequences throughout the game where you get to play as them in between the games. I mean, you could do anything. You could do so much with that story, those characters, and fans would love it. They would say it's the greatest Mafia game of all time. And you could give it a happy ending. You know what the greatest ending would be, by the way? You know what the coolest thing would be? This is total fan service, and I don't give a fuck. You got Vito and Joe driving in this car. Leo is sitting in the back seat, or you could have Joe in the back seat with Leo, or vice versa. You could have Joe driving and Vito in the back seat. You could have this whole scene, this whole suspenseful scene where maybe Vito is wearing a mask or something and you don't know I don't know. But you could build it up to, oh shit, now these two guys are going to kill Leo for what he did, for separating the two of them and for making them both think that each other were dead. And then all of a sudden, Leo would be like, what are you guys going to do? What do you think you're going to do to me? Or something like that. I don't know. I'm not going to write this. I'm not the writer of this game. If I was, I would do a good job, though, I would like to say. But anyways, so all of a sudden, after he says, "What are you guys gonna do?" Joe would turn right. And then let's see. And then, you guys know, there would be some kind of line that would reference, Joe wasn't a part of our deal. There would be some kind of line to basically just tell you Leo is fucked. But it wouldn't end there. They would drive into a garage where we see this big torture setup, all these tools and weapons, and then Joe would get out of the car, and he would leave the car door open, and he would turn on the car radio, and then pull, or he could just turn on a radio, and then they would both pull Leo out of the car, and then we would cut away to outside of the garage, and the door's closed, and all we hear is that song. And so it would basically be like, look, like, we took that ending for Mafia 2, and we're paying that off. We're paying it off with, look, both those guys survived, and now they're taking their revenge. I mean, Leo's almost dead anyway. He's like a really old guy, and so it's really, really, really shitty to take a really old guy like that and then torture him to death. And so, so I think that would be the greatest ending to their whole story, though. It would be so satisfying to see Leo being the one who gets in the car where it turns right, and then it's like, well, Leo wasn't a part of the deal. It maybe even, like, Vito and Joe had, like, a whole plan about, like, exiting the Mafia, and then so that they could say to each other, Leo wasn't a part of the deal, and they could be, like, joking about it, and then do that put him in the garage, torture him to death. That would be really, really cool. I think that they should do that. It would be a home run. Mafia 5, like GTA 5, it would be a home run. And close out their story with a bang, so that you can move on to new ones. Like, I never even realized that Lincoln Clay, or Clay Lincoln, whatever his name is, he's the worst protagonist of a Mafia game. I never even realized he was Joe's son. Because, as I said, I didn't connect the two games. I hadn't finished Mafia 2. I didn't really think about the two being connected. But close out these legacy character story with a bang, so that you can move on to new ones. And then I would also say there should be more side missions. There should be a lot more main story missions to do. And there should be a lot more ways to spend money, so that you can really understand being a Mafia guy versus being a normal guy. And I think that you could even, in the flashbacks, where you're Vito or Joe after Mafia 2, you could just devote an entire flashback sequence, maybe with Joe. Maybe Joe, because Joe's really sad that he's never going to see Vito again. He's trapped being Leo's driver, working for him forever. The soul sucked out of his body and shit. Maybe you could have a whole flashback sequence where you're Joe and you just want the pain to go away. And so the objective of the mission is spend money. Go to strip clubs. Spend money. Just keep spending and spending and spending. And the real fucked up thing would be you would have this bar on the top of the screen, and it would say like $50,000, $100,000 back in the 50s would be a lot of money. and but it would be so revealing because, you know, like, you just have to keep spinning it and spinning it, and it never gets down to the bottom. Maybe, like, it actually regenerates. You know, like, maybe it doesn't even move. Maybe it just, and you just keep spinning and spinning and spinning. And it's just like, it almost makes you sick. It almost makes you sick because it's like, this is just, it's greed. It's just all the, you know, gluttony. It's just, you know, all over the top, just too much. Too much. That would be a great thing. I'm not going to write the rest of the game now. I'm not going to come up with the rest of the game now. But as you guys can see, that's probably what they should do. You know, I don't know what Mafia the Old Country is like. I would like to play it because I am a completionist. But I do think that they should close out these legacy characters' stories. And I really hope that they see this video because, you know, even though I'm a very casual fan, I think that they could really, really do something cool. I mean, the thing is that, like, look, yes, we like new characters, but, like, let's just have Vito and Joe be the protagonists of one last game, okay? Just one other game. Even though they're older, let's just do it. Let's just do that. It'll be a lot of fun. Everyone will love it. Everyone. And by the way, the whole reason, another reason why I looked up a bunch of Mafia videos is because I wanted to look up about the DLCs to Mafia 2, and I am so fucking glad that I looked those up and I didn't actually play them because, wow, they sound horrible. And so I'm so glad that I saved myself from playing those terrible, terrible DLCs. I mean, I don't know what the hell those things were, but those were complete trash. So anyways, please like this video, and again, I give the game a B+. I think that, hey, even though it's a junk food game, it's still a damn good B+. And then please comment on this video and call me out for pretending like it was bad last video, and then this video all of a sudden it sounds like I love the game. That's just how it is. Like, I think that a lot of you guys don't realize the fact that I'm not even very critical. I'm just making criticisms. Like, even though I'm making a lot of criticisms, that doesn't mean that I dislike what I'm talking about. You know, I just feel like that's like what I do. You know, like, if there's a lot of good things to talk about, I'll talk about the good things. But yeah. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest video game reviews. Lastly, we have a Patreon page, and I would be so happy and so grateful if you checked it out. I just released a short film called County Fear, and I can promise you, you will be a lot happier spending your hard-earned money on seeing that than watching the terrible new stuff that comes out nowadays in theaters, on streaming. It's gotten really, really bad. And there's also a ton of other bonus videos for the channel. I will be adding new Patreon content soon. I don't know what I will add next, but I will add some more stuff soon. And there's a lot of stuff. There's also an hour and 40 minutes of behind-the-scenes video of me making County Fear. And, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's very good. So, yeah, goodbye, everybody. See you soon.